mean, as well, that Pinot Grigio is really interesting for consumers in there.
Well, it is, and let's start the video and then we'll talk about it. Okay. Good morning, everyone. This is Regine with Shall We Wine, and I am super excited. I have some guests from Miami and more importantly from Italy. So we're doing something a little different today, and it's 11 o'clock in Chicago, and I will start drinking wine, and it's 6 o'clock p.m. in Italy. And so I just wanted to get together and talk a little bit about Pinot Grigio and talk a little bit about how the COVID-19 is impacting our friends in Italy. And I want to give my followers a sense of like what it feels like to travel to Italy, what it's like to taste the wines. So hopefully we're going to have a really good conversation. So I want to introduce you to two people. We have, and I'm going to try really hard to pronounce Italian. I'm getting it together. Hold on. Nazareno? No?
Yes, nope. Nazareno in Italian.
Nazareno. Nazareno.
You. Welcome.
Say that again, Nazareno?
Nazareno.
Nazareno. Nazareno is with the Vicenzi Consortium, DOC. And then we have Valentina.
Valentina.
I tried so hard. Say it again for me.
Valentina.
Valentina.
Yes, like Valentino Rossi, you know.
Say that again?
You know Valentino Rossi, the rider.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Were you named after the rider?
Valentino Rossi, you know.
Yes.
Yeah. I am the female version, Valentina.
Valentina. Okay, I'm going to get it. I'm going to speak Italian by the time we're done. And Valentina, you are responsible for PR for the consortium, yes?
I am.
Okay, and then with us also is Ana. And Ana, tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself.
So I'm Ana. I'm with IEEM. We're an events company based in Miami. Our sister company is actually based in Verona. That's IEEM, and they're in Italy. And like I said, we're here in the United States, and we host a lot of wine tastings. We're in contact with journalists. We're in the wine trade, let's say, and we've actually done plenty of events, so I'm very familiar with Nazareno, and we had the pleasure of taking you, Regine, to Piedmont a couple of years back, so this is great. I'm very, very happy to be putting this together, and I think it's going to be very interesting.
Awesome. Well, Piedmont, and we also went to Collio.
Oh, you did? Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. So before I get to all of the question, Nazareno, see? Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, actually, my name is Nazareno Vicenzi. I am an enologist as well, and I'm the technical enologist for the Consortium delle Venezie. So that's a big appellation that was created in 2017 in order to represent all the northeastern part of Italy about just one production, Pinot Grigio.
Okay.
That's such Italian, you know, everybody says Pinot Grigio, that's such an Italian name. So just think that we are representing the biggest area in the world for Pinot Grigio production. That's quite 35% of total what's the production of the world is produced in here in Italy, and 85% of is produced here in Triveneto. Trentino, Veneto, and Friuli, all the northeastern part of Italy represented in one big appellation.
Well, we're going to break that down so that you know, people here in the United States gets a feel for where it is, how to get there, and hopefully visit. So Valentina, see? So tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yes, actually I'm brand new in the Consorzio. I've just started to work for them. I started in January 2020. And I'm in charge, as you said, I'm in charge for the PR and the press office for the Consorzio delle Venezie Pinot Grigio. I keep relationships with journalists, bloggers, influencers from Europe mainly, but also from the United States. I've just started, as I said. but I think that coronavirus apart,
Yeah.
I think that I had a good start with this job, and I hope that it will keep on good.
And when did you start? How long has it been? I'm sorry.
I just started in January 2020. I've been working in the field. I've been working for like 10 years now, but I'm a sommelier, certified sommelier, IES, which is an Italian sommelier organization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When I was in Colio, you guys have the big medals, right?
Yes.
Yes. I was like, what is that? So in the U.S., you know, it's a pin, and I like the big medals. So that's very like right. It's prominent. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about. So I have been so fortunate to visit a few areas in Italy, and when I travel, what I do is I document my travel on social media. And what I have found is the people who follow me, who follow Shall We Wine, they love experiencing Italy or France, all the places that I've been able to go through photos. So just start by giving me an idea of where the area is and where does the DOC cover? And I have a photo that I'm going to put up while you're talking. So who wants to tell us where we're covering? So here it is. Hold on, you sent it to me.
We represent the province of Trento, the entire region Veneto, and as well all the Friuli Venezia Giulia area. That's all the northeastern part of Italy you can see from the picture. And that's a wonderful, great area. Just think that now we are talking about more than 26,000 hectares of Pinot Grigio surfaces that is here in the area. And as I told you before, it's quite 35% of the world surfaces in here, 85% of the Italian surfaces in here. So actually, we can tell definitely we are Pinot Grigio here in the area. It's a wonderful area. You can see in the second picture, and there's a lot of history, cities, wonderful panorama, and this area as well so famous for wine production. We are not the only one, because as you can see, you well know that here in the area there are a lot of other famous wine, Amarone, Prosecco, Sauvignon from Friuli, Trento DOC from Trento. But here as well, all located in the same area. We represent 26,000 hectares of Pinot Grigio.
So tell me, like, if we were to fly in, if we wanted to visit some of the wine country, where would we fly into from Chicago, New York? Where do we fly into?
There are a lot of direct flights to Venice, such with the airport. So you're so close to the city. Just take a boat to the city center and take a look to this wonderful city. Okay. Then you can take a train to move through all the Veneto on one side or through Friuli on the other side. You can go, for example, directly to Udine or to Trieste, windy city, but really a lot of history in the area. On the other side, you can stop a while in Padua, where there's a lot of history, or up to Treviso, a city with a lot of rivers inside, as such wonderful. Or getting back to Vicenza, well, not Verona, the arena, the city of Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet. Why not? You are close to Garda Lake. You can just sit for a while, drinking a glass of wine close to the Garda Lake, taking some sun and relaxing a few minutes, because you have to move directly up to Trento, a wonderful city behind, in the middle of the mountains. There are a lot of history as well, a lot of castles. A lot of vineyards, wonderful panorama to see. Why not having a few hours skiing as well?
Does the consortium work with any tourism bureaus at all, or tourism organizations to bring Americans into the area, or how does that work?
Not yet. Since the consortium was born in 2017, it takes part of a lot of different associations who organize that. Also, that's the region of Veneto, veneto.eu website, or the tastetrentino.it, or turismofvg.it. There are the three institutional portal where you can have a lot of information through each one of the three regions, having information, wine tourism, bike moving, a lot of information you can find in there. Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about the location and the climate. So it's Pinot Grigio is the focus, right? You're not making anything else. So Pinot Grigio is what you do well. So tell me about the climate, tell me about the location and why it makes it so special and why it's perfect for Pinot Grigio.
Well, first of all, it's such important for us people to know that Pinot Grigio has a champion biology.
Wait a minute, shouldn't I be drinking Pinot Grigio? Yes!
Yes,
I'm like, wait a minute, something doesn't feel right. We're talking about Pinot Grigio, we have to drink Pinot Grigio. Okay.
Together.
yes, I will do the same.
Okay, and we're not just drinking Pinot Grigio, we're drinking Pinot Grigio delle Venezie, okay? All right, so this is the area we're talking about. Okay.
Have to find something to drink with us as well.
Right. Yeah. Anna, you're not drinking?
No. I will watch you guys drink.
Don't worry, we're okay with that. Perfect. Show me your bottle so I can see which producers I can try.
It's Famiglia Bonato.
Insertion, because we're moving and you know to tell people about our appellation, it's important for us to be out of any political factors. By here, we are in our headquarters, and you can see behind me we have all the bottles of our members, such a lot of bottles, because it's important for us. And here up you can see the consortium. This is the.
Okay. And what are you drinking, Valentina? See?
I'm drinking Pinot Grigio from Famiglia Bonato. Of course, Nazareno is from, because I'm from Milan, he's from Verona, so he knows better than me all the single producers. So maybe he can tell you something more about this producer.
Okay, but okay, so let's go back. So let's talk about the area, because most people who are watching or reading will know that it's all about location, 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 right? Grapes can grow in different climates or different areas, but there are certain areas where it is just special and the area is meant for the grape. So let's talk about that.
Okay, so Pinot Grigio, as Pinot Gris is a typical grape variety that has average temperature growing. That's really important. We are talking about between 55 to 59 degree in Fahrenheit. And it's such important for us to make people understand we are in that temperature, because our area, it's between the Adriatic Sea to the Garda Lake and Upper has all the Alps that create an environmental, climatically condition that protects the vineyards and has a microclimate wonderful. Okay. Pinot Grigio has found in each one of the different terroirs that are part of our appellation the perfect environmental climatic situation that's perfect for his growing. Just think that we have some differences between one part of the appellation to the other. It's different between being inside of the Trento area, between the mountains or close to the sea, close to Garda Lake, or as well to the sea, close to Venice, or being close to Collio. But the Alps on the upper side that protects and create a wonderful climatic area. That's why.
Let's break this down for maybe someone who just likes to drink wine, right? They don't study wine. So with that perfect temperature between 55 and 59, with the way that the area protects the grapes, what are we to expect? What are we to expect from a bottle of Pinot Grigio from the area?
First of all,
I'll tell you what to expect. Delicious, but okay. Delicious. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna leave Valentina to go through the tasting exactly, but in my mind, you can find a certain freshness and a good acidity that's perfect for the wine pairing. You can find some white flowers, you can find some fruit, but not too much, not like exotic fruit. It's more like some peaches, something much more fresher, some apricot or something like. And that's perfect in that kind of wine. Since the Pinot Grigio has got a quite red skin, let me say gray skin, that's why Pinot Grigio or Pinot Gray, helps you in having as well some much bitterish at the end, because the polyphenols, even if you have a white vinification, because there are still some polyphenols inside that, gives you some bitterish at the end that together with the freshness help you to have the second glass. Why not on the rest of the bottle?
Or third. Do you want to add to that and talk a little bit about, because this is what I want the people who watch our videos, who read our blog, you know, and I think I mentioned to you, we have maybe about 65% of consumers and maybe 35% are in the industry. But I want people to understand that when they walk into a store and they see a bottle of Pinot Grigio from different areas are going to taste different. So tell us a little bit, like just from a sommelier's perspective, what they should expect from Pinot Grigio from Vicenzi.
Well, first of all, when we started with this appellation, and then I really leave Valentina going through, we started with the Pinot Grigio stile Italiano, because that's such a different style from the one from Alsace or the one from New Zealand, where you can have some much more sugars inside as well, or some much more oak. We just have still thanks for having a fresh wine with a lot of citrus inside, moreover. And as well, the consumers enjoys that because it's perfect for food and wine pairing. Let me just say that we started with this kind of stile Italiano because it's a vinification method in white. If you have a picture of Pinot Grigio, the grape, you can see the color is quite pink. It's quite gray. So in that way,
I do have that. Let's show it.
Fantastic. As you can imagine, if you have a maceration of the skin, you can bring out some colors. And that's the way that some of our wineries has got a color that's much more, we usually say, copperish version, because it's not pink, it's not blush as well. Mm-hmm. It's a copper color due to these polyphenols. What do you think, Valentina? What flavors inside a glass of?
Yes. This is the photo. Hold on, I just want to show everyone. This is the photo that you're talking about with what the Pinot Grigio grape looks like. So I'm sorry, Valentina.
Don't worry. Well, mainly, if I have to describe a fil rouge of the Pinot Grigio of our area, mm-hmm. I must say simply fruity and acidity. Mm-hmm. These are the most important characteristics of our Pinot Grigio delle Venezie. The most common nuance, that the fruity nuance that you can smell, it's of course the pear, but you can also find many other nuances depending on the region, the specific area that it is produced, and acidity. Mm-hmm. All the Pinot Grigios delle Venezie show a very, very strong acidity that go with almost every kind of food or recipes. That's why we say every time that our Pinot Grigio is very versatile. And then when you go deeper, our region, you can, with region I mean Triveneto, which includes the three regions of Veneto, Trentino and Friuli. If you want to go deeper, you will notice that every region has its own peculiarity. Like, for example, in Friuli Grave, there are more rocks, so you can smell more minerality, for example. More fruity in Veneto, for example, also. Then I have to discover more because I've just started to work for the appellation, but this is the most important characteristics of our wines.
So let's go. I'm sorry. Let's go back a little bit because I like to think about this from the consumer perspective. Okay. So you talked about three areas. You mentioned two: Friuli Grave. Okay. So more rock mineral flavors. Veneto, you're saying it's going to be a little bit more fruit flavors, right? Yes. And what is the third area? Let's talk about that.
The Trentino.
Trentino. And tell me what is the profile for Trentino?
Nazareno, you know better than me.
We are in the middle of the mountains, so being on the higher meters on the sea level, mm-hmm. or the higher altitude,
above the sea level.
Having a fresher winter, you're gonna have a different maturation of the grapes. So you can preserve some acidity. due to the malic and the tartaric acid that is going to brought then as well inside the wine. So much more freshness. And then freshener helps as well to bring out the minerality of the wine. Being, for example, in the middle of the Val d'Adige River, the Val d'Adige Valley, there's a river that's the Adige River. It brings a lot of stones stuff. Then you arrive close to the Garda Lake as well. There are some morainic hills that the results of the work of the glaciers during the millennia. And so that's as well the results of different feeling, different tasting inside all the ones produced in the area. And this helps you understand how this grape variety is so versatile. I was telling you, you were telling about as well the color of the skin of the bunch.
Mm-hmm.
It's such important because in that way you can have the Copper's version that is much more bitterish, rich in the flowers, losing, let me say, just losing some of the acidity. It's much more bitterish. So we can have a lot of different, let me say, styles inside the Pinot Grigio stile Italiano. But
so this is really important. This is really important because I think, well, American consumers think that Pinot Grigio is one way, right? That there's one style. And I think what the conversation that we're having is really important to know that even just within this area, we have three very different expressions. And one of the things that I like to encourage people to do is taste three different expressions side by side so that you can understand that you can spend years exploring Pinot Grigio, that all Pinot Grigio is not created alike. So let's talk, I'm sorry, did you want to add anything else?
No, I just wanted to add two things that you can, for your first question, you can see a bottle from Pinot Grigio delle Venezie because it's got a government label seal on. That's a seal that ensures the quality traceability system of what's inside. It means there are people going through the vineyard and in a winery, and that is a blind tasting commission made by enologists, and I'm part of, and I can assure it's totally blind. We just taste the wine and say, okay, it can or cannot be Pinot Grigio. In a way, we can say we taste quite all the bottles. It's just a sample of the amount that will be bottled. That's why I'm so happy. But traceability is such important for us. We can, in that way, we can ensure that what's inside is definitely minimum 85% Pinot Grigio, and it's everything it's all controlled through the production chain from the vineyard to the final bottle.
Okay. So one of the things that I read on the website is the goal of the Consorzio, yeah, I'm pronouncing it. I'm telling you, I'm going to speak very good Italian, is to protect, to enhance, and to promote Pinot Grigio. Let's go back to the statement that you just made about protecting. So how are you regulating, how are you certifying that, yes, this bottle deserves this seal and it is ready to go to the consumer? What does that process look like?
It's been the process that has ensured our evolution from the ex-IGT to now the DOC. It means that, first of all, a product specification, so some rules has been written and has to be followed by all those who in Triveneto want to produce Pinot Grigio delle Venezie.
Okay.
That way it means that we have the control of the yields varietals, yields grape for wine, way of vinification, and then the sample of this wine has been analyzed and then controlled by blind tasting commission. Just at the end of that, our Triveneto Certificazioni, that's the control body, leaves the government seal that is part on inside on all the bottles. The government seal has got a number that different one to the other. So in that way, we can ensure that this is unique in the world. There's no other like that, and that everything has been controlled through the production chain. This has been such important for us because, as you can imagine, we produce more or less 211 million bottles per year, on more than 26,000 hectares. It has been such important for us in order to proceed in the way to ensure the quality the consumer want and as well as looking for.
So have you had any issues with counterfeit? I mean, are there people sort of passing their Pinot Grigios as Pinot Grigio from your area? Is that part of the reason that it's so controlled or no?
No, our areas, everything is so controlled. Just think that the grade has been creating not just our appellation, there are as well other 20 appellation part of our area, some bigger and some smaller, one from Colli, for example, one from Trentino. But there's no IGT, so Pinot Grigio is connecting to a DOC, so everything has to pass through a DOC. That can be delle Venezie, Garda, Grave, and so on, but in that way, we ensure that it's definitely controlled and guaranteed what's inside the bottle, definitely.
Okay. Valentina, did you want to add anything, or Ana?
No, that's fine. I mean, that Nazareno is well prepared, and I'm taking advantage from this interview.
Good. And all learning together. We're learning together. Sure. Okay, so here's something that really, I wanted to talk a little bit about different styles of Pinot Grigio a little bit later, but one of the things that read that I love this statement. It said that, let me find it, that there is a revolution occurring in Italy's northeast as it relates to Pinot Grigio. The word revolution caught my attention, and I love that. So what is the revolution? Who started it? And why was it so necessary? What was going on with Pinot Grigio production or consumption that you felt like you had to change things? And I will take a sip.
Cheers.
Yes, cheers.
Cheers.
So during the 1970s, Santa Margherita started that what we call stile italiano in that way, not just a way, but it's a way of having a vinification that, because in the past, Pinot Grigio was quite a red wine because it has some maceration bringing out the color of the skins. In that way, starting having a wide vinification, then the consumer really enjoyed this style and started to be looking for Pinot Grigio wherever. So that's why our area that was perfect and environmentally, climatically perfect for this great variety started to have lots of vineyards inside the area, more than 26,000 hectares I was telling you before. So such a huge amount. About that, it's been so important for us to protect this value, because being 85% of the Italian and 45% the world surface, it's such important for us. But we are not the only one who produce Pinot Grigio. Not just in Italy and not just in Europe, but as well in the world.
So I'm sorry, I don't think I understand. Help me understand. So I think I've heard you say that Santa Margherita created a specific style. Yes? Yeah. Okay, tell me about that style. What is, if I had never had Santa Margherita, of course I have, but if I hadn't, what is that style? And is it, I'm not sure if you're saying it is different or it is like. I assume it's different because Santa Margherita is not from your region. See? Yeah, okay. So
our farmers and our, in the past, wine grower and winemaker produced quite a red wine in this style. Santa Margherita then started to produce a style, now it's such famous pink again, having the rosé wines again, but actually in that way during that time, Santa Margherita decided to produce a white vinification in order to have a white wine, white Pinot Grigio, white version. That's that shortly became famous, that was totally different from the one, it's from Alsace, from New Zealand and other part of the world.
Sure.
That style became famous, vineyard growth as well. And then the appellation, we decided, the vine grower decided to build this appellation in order to protect the styles, but as well to ensure that what live this area is definitely DOC, definitely controlled, it's definitely guaranteed for the consumer. Okay. We would like with this appellation to ensure the quality inside the bottle, inside a glass of wine, definitely.
Got it.
So it's a revolution because 26,000 hectares decided to change 3 letters from IGT to DOC. That probably for the consumer is not too much, but differences are inside the bottles. It has meant to ensure the controls of the production, to ensure what's inside the bottle, to ensure that's definitely Pinot Grigio. It doesn't mean that it wasn't before, but actually our area, on the other way that the rest of the world is definitely controlled, and we ensure the consumer to have what they are buying the bottle for. So
Valentina, do you want to talk a little bit about, for the consumers who don't know, IGT versus DOC and what that means in terms of what's in the bottle, but the quality that they're getting and for their money, the value that they're getting?
Well, the DOC is the control, it means controlled denomination of origin. So all the grapes that comes from that region are certificated and controlled. I mean, I would prefer that Nazareno maybe is better to explain that.
Okay, but in essence, we're saying that DOC is a higher quality than IGT.
It is,
yes.
it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a pyramid, you know, starting with the table wine, so the
Yep.
simple wine, then the DOC, the IGT, sorry, the DOC and the OCG on the top. Going upper, you have all much more stricter rules that ensure the quality of what's inside of it. They're much more controlled in an analytic way, but as well from the vineyard, where the grapes come from, how the grapes are grown, and so on. So we have stricter rules in order to assure what's inside the bottle. That's the Italian way of certificating the wines and the quality.
So for those of you who are watching, what that means is that the area has gotten together, and the level of Pinot Grigio that was being produced, let's say, 10 years ago, is this level is a higher quality because they now have stricter regulations. So you may have seen Pinot Grigio, you may have seen Pinot Grigio from this area, but now because it's a DOC, you're getting a better value, you're getting a better quality of wine for maybe about the same, because the prices haven't changed that much, right?
Yeah, not too much actually, and then it's been good for the consumers. But just think that bypassing from the IGT to the DOC, each one, the vine growers renounced 26 hectoliters per hectare. So such a lot of wine. It's being sure that all the rules have been much more stricter in order to ensure the quality. It meant just the better grapes are used for.
Yeah, and I think that that's fantastic because, one of the things that I mentioned in my notes to all of you is that, Pinot Grigio is uneven here, right? Like if you walk into a store and you see a whole, shelf of Pinot Grigio, sometimes it's really difficult for the consumer to understand what they're getting, what the expectation of what the expectation is. So this is wonderful to know that we can take a look at this bottle, we can take a look at this seal and know that we're getting quality. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the different styles. So what I've read is we have Pinot Grigio, we have Pinot Grigio Spumante, Pinot Grigio Frizzante, and then Bianco. So let's talk about them, and let's talk about one of my favorite things, Italian food. Every trip I take to Italy, so I love to work out, right? I love to eat healthy, but I go to Italy and it's over. It is over. I'm eating everything. So let's start with Pinot Grigio. So we see that on the bottle. Let's talk about that style and some of the foods that we might enjoy with that style.
And I'm as an enologist, I'm much more technical sometimes. Valentina knows that. With product specification, it's a wonderful reels you can find on our website.
Okay.
All the information about how we do produce that, because it's such clear everything. First of all, we produce Pinot Grigio both in the still version, in the Spumante, and in the Frizzante version. Spumante is the sparkling, and Frizzante, let me say, it's like a semi-sparkling. It's usually it's got a higher percentage of sugars inside and a lower percentage of CO2, so it's less bubbly. The white. So
let's go back. The Spumante is going to be less bubbly than the Frizzante.
It's a higher percentage of CO2 inside, so that's like the Prosecco we usually know.
Okay.
Prosecco, let me say, that's just the appellation as well. It's got its own government scene as well. So they are both DOC appellations to ensure quality of those important grapes and wines. And the semi-sparkling version, let me say in that way, that's translating Frizzante, the Italian version. Yes, it's like leather fizzy. But it's wonderful for the wine pairing as well. The white, so we call Bianco, it's just another typology. It's not Pinot Grigio. That's a little small production that's all used moreover in the winery to blend the 50% of the 85% of Pinot Grigio. But it's such technical. You probably do not find that Bianco delle Venezie on the trade, but Pinot Grigio is the main version of this appellation type.
Okay. Do you all know if, I haven't seen a lot of Pinot Grigio Spumante or Frizzante. I haven't tried to look for them, but are they exported into the US?
Yeah, there's a lot of winery producing that. For example, I'd like to show you a couple that's here from a famous winery here in Verona.
I wish I could grab it. I wish I could grab the bottle from the screen. Okay, okay.
Quite new. And for example, Frizzante Spumante, just a little version, the main version, the still white version. And here, for example, it's another winery close to Treviso.
Okay.
It works a lot in the packaging. That's another sparkling version.
Got
so
it. Okay.
That's important for us, even to make people understand different typologies. But quite 90% of the production of the still white version, so the famous version everybody knows. Because on Spumante Frizzante, usually consumers are looking for different other DOC wines.
One of the things that I've been writing about and doing videos on are, because we all are experiencing shelter in place now, one of the key things to me is finding wines that can go with different meals, right? So sometimes you just open a bottle and you might have it for a little for dinner, a little bit for breakfast. There's nothing wrong with that. And a little bit for lunch. So you want things that are really versatile. And what I'm enjoying, and this is honestly my first time trying, and I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, is it Piccini? Piccini?
Yeah, fantastic.
Piccini. Piccini. See?
Piccini.
Piccini. Okay. This to me, like if you are doing, let's start with brunch. If you're doing brunch and you're doing something like, an omelet with like a fresh asparagus omelet, or you're doing a quiche Lorraine, I think this would be really lovely. If you're doing like a really fresh seafood salad, I think it would be great. I think it's lovely on its own. I mean, this is, what's the alcohol on this?
12.5 usually.
Yeah, it feels very light. It feels very fresh. I'm getting some really beautiful acidity. I can also see, obviously, if you're doing some seafood, this would be really delicious. But there's actually enough character for if you're doing something like, let's say, a grilled chicken, right? It's getting warm in Chicago. If you're doing like a grilled chicken with some vegetables, I think this would be really lovely as well. It's just really versatile. What do you guys think? Any other ideas of things that you might want to pair with it or you enjoy Pinot Grigio with?
Wow. Let me just tell you, before leaving Valentina going through better, that we as Consortium started a campaign on our Facebook that every week we have a release of some information about having a dinner, a typical areas dinner. Now we're talking about Veneto, but next week we're gonna through Friuli and Trentino. For example, Francischetti Veneziani from Venice and so on. Here, people during this chaotic situation, staying at home, can be interesting to have a recipe, having some dishes from Italy, for example. But I agree with you totally, because wherever in the world I move, I can find beautiful food and wine pairing with Pinot Grigio. If you are in Mexico, you can have with sushi, we can have with tacos.
Oh, sushi, yes, that would be great.
The main characteristic of this wine is that it can be paired mostly, for example, with fish, with fish or shrimps or sushi, for example, because of the tradition, because we have a seaside tradition, but also a lake tradition, because we are so close to Lago di Garda and to the Mar Adriatico, to the Mediterranean. So we have a lot of recipes with fishes from the lake or fish from the sea, but also I think that it can be paired to, we call it in Italian, white meat, with like chicken, for example, or the rabbit. We also eat rabbits. I don't know if
that would be, yes. Okay. Whenever we can fly, I'm coming just so you can make me rabbit. Yeah.
Rabbit with potatoes is a very famous. I mean, not everybody eats the rabbit, but I think it's a very good dish. I love to eat it, and I think it would be paired perfectly with the Pinot Grigio. And the most important thing of this this wine is it's versatile. You can really. I'm not saying that you can pair it with a steak, of course, but with vegan dishes, with vegetarian dishes, with fish, with meat, with
But
pasta.
even like charcuterie, like even with something really salty, I think would be really good with like a prosciutto. I think maybe with, how about carpaccio?
Ooh,
With
wow.
carpaccio, yes.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
Carpaccio, perfect.
Who's getting hungry?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ready for dinner. I wouldn't pair it with prosciutto, honestly.
No? Okay, tell me why.
No, because it has not a so high acidity to clean my mouth.
Okay,
from
okay,
prosciutto.
okay.
Not enough.
Yeah, no, I think that this is what is exciting to me about wine, right? I love having this conversation because sometimes we think one thing has to go with something else. In my mind, I think salty, I think this is gonna clean my palate. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna buy prosciutto, I'm gonna try it, and I'm gonna tell you. And that's what's fun about wine and food. It's about exploring. You know, you said no to steak. I agree. I don't want this with a steak, but I want people to feel comfortable trying it, right? Trying it for themselves so that they can see, yes, this works, or no, this doesn't work. One of my favorite classes to do is a food and wine pairing class, but all I show are bad pairings. I show bad pairing, and then I show a good pairing. I show bad pairing, and I show good pairing, so that we understand why something doesn't work. So, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to try with prosciutto, and I'm going to send you an email and let you know. Okay.
Tell
Yeah.
me your feedback.
Yeah, I will. I will.
I'd like to know something. What about Anna in Miami? What do you
Yes, Anna.
Anna likes to drink her Pinot Grigio, punto.
Punto?
No, I love a good Pinot Grigio, and I usually pair it with seafood. So
Okay.
that's my go-to for a nice Pinot Grigio.
Lovely, lovely.
I think that's what I'm gonna make for lunch now.
This is my breakfast. I'm having the breakfast of champions. Okay, so we talked about food. We talked about different styles. So let's talk a little bit about how COVID-19, how it's impacted production, distribution. I'm really curious about, what's going on because we only, we seem to know what's happening here and what we hear from the news. I'd love to hear from you as I pour a little bit more.
Well, actually, cheers.
Yes.
Well, actually, of course, we are living in a very, very big crisis nowadays. The entire world is suffering, is affected by this pandemic. But honestly, we have just collected some data from the first quarter of the year. And our denomination has not suffered that much from the crisis because the reason is simple, because we are distributed to the large scale distribution. So we are found in the supermarkets, in the hypers. So we can say honestly that we are not only we haven't suffered the crisis, but maybe we are taking a bit of an advantage from it because people is buying more wine in the supermarkets.
Yeah.
It's not nice to say. It's not nice to say, but that is the truth. So
yeah. I don't think it's good or bad. It's just truth. Yeah.
People is drinking wine, and actually Pinot Grigio is one of the most consumed wine from medium consumer. Mm-hmm. So our numbers are totally in line with the average of last year and the previous year. Mm-hmm. So for now we are not suffering from the crisis, but the next months are still a big question mark. We don't know yet what is going on in the next future.
Are you? I'm sorry, please.
Well, I just think we export quite 96% of all the butter produced, for more or less 34% between US and Canada. In that way, it's such important for us, even because as Valentina said, you can find in the great distribution the Pinot Grigio delle Venezie, and the answer is that people are looking for that, and that's why as well the great distribution decided to distribute this kind of wine specifically. So in that way, during the coronavirus, people have to go to a supermarket, and that's the wine you can find. And that's such good for us in that way. It doesn't mean that it's a cheap wine, and not in the way that it's a, like, let me say, poor wine, but it's because it's the characteristic this wine has, and the freshness, and the way that every year you have to change the vintage, even because people drink all the last vintage are ready for the new one. That's such that we are in the situation that let's see what's going to happen in the next month. But right now, that are staying in a good way for us.
You know, Pinot Grigio, you know, I like to also talk about wines in an emotional way, right? Not just about how the wines taste, but how the wines make you feel. And Pinot Grigio it's fresh, it's easy, it's approachable. So it makes sense to me that in a time like this, people are gravitating towards wine with great acidity that sort of change your mood, and wines that lift your spirit. So I'm not surprised. You know, before coronavirus, we were concerned about the tariffs. That was our big concern, right? And for those who don't know, you know, please go to our newsletter where we talk about the tariffs, and this was 2 months ago, and how the tariffs were impacting distribution of wines from Europe into wines and food from Europe into the United States. So it's interesting how it shifted from the tariffs, right, being our biggest concern to coronavirus. So I'm glad to know that the area is doing well. Is there anything more that we can do to support your efforts now in terms of spreading the word and promotion? Anything that we can do?
Well, first of all, when I go to Instagram and then looking for the hashtag Pinot Grigio, I see a lot of wonderful people having a glass of wine on the terrace, being at home, relaxing, definitely. So it's such a relaxing wine. I don't know, for consumer, it's wonderful. A lot of people are cooking a lot of different dishes at home, share with the family, share with friends, having some chats or some video together, having a glass of wine together on Zoom, on any kind of platform. It's such wonder to see that such the relaxing wine, leaving everything outside, the virus and all the other things matters and so on. So I'd just like to say people continue looking for Pinot Grigio delle Venezie, but because probably it's on the great distribution, but we have a parterre of enormous winery, a small winery, family conduction winery at 34%. It means that all of them export to the US. So you can support Italy in this crazy moment and difficult moment as well, having a glass of Pinot Grigio. That's enough for us.
That's lovely. Anything else? No?
Pinot Grigio delle Venezie.
Yes, Pinot Grigio delle Venezie. This is what we're talking about. So look for Pinot Grigio delle Venezie. Look for the seal, and you know that you're getting a quality product, and you're tasting the wines from this particular area. So I want to say thank you very much for your time and for the education. I'm looking forward to drinking more Pinot Grigio from Vicenzi. See, my Italian's gotten good. I'll tell you one thing before we close. So my first trip to Italy was, I visited Milan. And before visiting Milan, I bought a CD. So this was a long time ago, a CD. And it's called One Day Italian. So the CD promised to teach you how to speak Italian in one day, yes? So the only thing I remember, scusi, dove c'è il negozio di vino?
No.
Look, what that means, everyone,
Most
is
important.
yes, excuse me, where is the wine shop? All right, well, don't leave yet, because I want to take a few photos, but for everyone who's watching, I just want to close by saying thank you. Please try the Pinot Grigio from delle Venezie, so take a look at that, and we will see you soon with another episode of Shall We Wine TV, the Zoom edition. Please say goodbye to everyone.
Thank you very much for staying with us, and have a cheers together.
Thank you. Cheers, and keep on drinking Pinot Grigio. Delle
Yes,
Venezie.
cheers.